Chapter 2. The smell of chicken wafted from the tents that were lined up along the side of the battlefield. Men and women sweated over propane stoves and wood fires, the unseasonably warm October weather as well as their heavy medieval-esque attire contributing to their discomfort. I was just as uncomfortable, in full plate mail with no tent to shelter me from the broiling sun. The cook manning the chicken went back into the tent to pull seasoning out of a box while another man took his place. I wrinkled my nose. The guy had the requisite old-timey outfit on, but unlike the others, he was greasy, his skin a sickly yellow hue. Flies buzzed around his head. Ew. Maybe I wouldn't eat the chicken after all. My stomach growled in protest. It was cooked. The guy was just flipping it with a set of tongs. Wasn't like he was licking it or something gross like that. But there was something about him that made my skin crawl, something that raised the hair on the back of my neck. I'm sure they were grateful for any volunteer they got, but maybe they should have put this guy somewhere besides the kitchen. When does this thing start? I muttered to Zach. My stomach grumbled again, reminding me that I hadn't eaten more than a cannoli since waking up. That chicken was like a siren song. And it was one of two reasons I was here, in full armor, waiting to bash some heads in so I could eat the marvelous meal Zach had paid for. Any minute now. The marshal says he got hung up in road work on the Beltway. The marshal was the red-bearded man hastily buckling a white belt around his tunic as he hurried onto the field. I was pretty sure he had on sweatpants under the tunic. Yep, that was clearly elastic at the bottom where his socks met a pair of brown loafers. Lords and ladies, welcome to the kingdom of Aurora Crown Tourney. There were no lords and ladies. We were in the good old US of A in Maryland in a field outside of the city of Baltimore, surrounded people wearing an odd combination of homespun potato sacks and yoga pants. Zach had signed me up for this tourney, which was put on by the SPCA. At least, I think it was the SPCA, although I didn't see any puppies or kittens anywhere. I'd assumed it was a fundraiser. Which was reason 2 why I was here. Free food on Zach's dime, money to help homeless dogs and cats. I was a sucker for both. Besides, I had nothing else to do today. The chicken dinner would cut into the evening time I usually reserved for Dario, but I'd needed to cancel tonight anyway. This was the first of my police-mandated community service from firing a gun in a public place last week. The only reason I wasn't in jail was that I had been defending myself from the murderous boo-hag who'd already killed half a dozen city residents. It was why I was a bit grumpy today. I wasn't looking forward to 5 hours helping set up a cold weather shelter for the homeless. It wasn't the volunteer work that had me snarling. It was that once more something was cutting into my time with Dario. I couldn't see him during the day, since that's when the vampire was literally dead and hidden away from the sun. We'd had scant time together the last week due to my boo-hag chasing and his need to deal with rogue vampires north of the city. I missed him. His Renfield errand might be bringing me pastries, but it was being with the vampire that was the highlight of my evenings. Tomorrow night. I'd see him tomorrow night. In the meantime, I'd take all my aggression and frustration out on the tourney field, then feast it up knowing that I'd put on a good show for the attendees. It was all for the dogs and cats, right? I wondered if I could write this in as community service, too. The first 2 combatants stepped onto the field, listening to last-minute instruction from the marshal before bowing to each other. There was a beautiful hand calligraphy chart in one of the tents outlining the order for the double elimination tourney. It was pretty straightforward stuff. Same sort of thing I'd been doing all my life, except these people weren't Templars. I side-eyed Zach, wondering if I should hold back out there. I definitely had the unfair advantage in terms of training and practice, and didn't want to be that jerk who pummeled everyone at a charity fundraiser. The 2 on the field began to fight, and I winced, watching their awkward footwork and clumsy swordplay. This your ringer, Zachary? When you said you had a champion fighting for you today, I figured you were going to go gay on us and hook up with Conan. A well-muscled blonde man buffed Zach on the shoulder. He was going for the Thor look and succeeding. My eyebrows shot up, and I took in his nicely made armor. Hopefully I'd get to fight this guy. He looked like he might actually be a challenge. Although from what I could see happening on the field, bulk and expensive armor wasn't indicative of any real skill.